Hey, folks, welcome to Draft Talk on Steelers Now. I'm Alan Saunders, joined once again by Nick Farabaugh, back for another year of talking about the Steelers and the NFL Draft, this time the 2022 NFL Draft. Nick and I have been on the road doing a lot of work already to prepare for this draft. We were together in Mobile at the Senior Bowl. We were together in Indianapolis at the Combine. We were at Pitt's Pro Day already. We're going to be at least one more Pro Day. So a lot going on with our draft prep for this coming draft. And of course, the Steelers doing a lot of that same work and getting to know the players that they may take this April. And as we always do, we're going to talk about just about everything that we have on our plate. We'll also get what you guys want us to talk about. So we'll take some questions, some comments. If you want to know about a player, a position, an idea for a future show, leave in the comments. We will get to it. We'll be going maybe not every day at first, but certainly once we get into April, we'll be going Monday through Friday, getting you ready for the 2022 NFL Draft. So we're going to start with yesterday, where Nick and I were both at Pitt for the Pitt Pro Day. The Steelers were everywhere, as Art Rooney, Mike Tomlin, Kevin Colbert, Brandon Hunt, all kinds of assistant coaches, all kinds of scouts, scouting interns. I'm pretty sure the cook was there. And so they were there looking at a few players, but primarily Pitt quarterback Kenny Pickett, who is seemingly still a reasonable option for the team to take at number 20. Nick, let's start there, actually. How reasonable is the team still drafting a quarterback with that first-round pick to you, despite the fact that they've signed Mitchell Trubisky as a free agent, paid him a decent salary here?
I think it's very likely. In fact, I think all signs are pointing to it. Frankly, you look at what they've done. First of all, in terms of the pro day circuit so far, obviously they went to Georgia, they went to Clemson, they always go to those, right? But they go to Liberty. They bring the house to Liberty today. I think they had like 9 guys listed for Pitt Pro Day. Really, it was 20 plus guys. You know, Omar Khan was there. Brian Flores was there. Matt Canada was there. Terrell Austin was there. They were all there. So you saw everyone there. But here's the thing with the free agency. They filled just about every hole to a degree. You don't have to panic about interior O-line. You brought back Chuk. So yes, you probably need a tackle, but you don't need to panic about it. The only panic positions right now that I would classify as panic positions are wide receiver, because they need another starter, and safety, because they need a starting strong safety. And here's the thing. They have enough cap space to fill both of those holes. And I anticipate in this coming week, or at least next week, as free agency starts to really wind down here, and there are still quality guys out there. Terrell Edmonds is out there. Tyrann Mathieu still out there. Jarvis Landry. You know, these guys are realistic options for the Steelers. They can sign these guys. They have enough cap space to where I think we'll see wide receiver and safety filled. And so if that is the case, what other position do you realistically have to panic about? Maybe inside linebacker, but Miles Jack's going to be in there. You hope for the resurgence of Devin Bush. So it sets up the Steelers to get into a position where, quite honestly, they can do whatever they want to try and get the quarterback that they want. And we'll see who that ends up being. But I think all the signs are pointing to them maybe going up and getting a quarterback.
Yeah, I might add maybe 5 tech to that list if Tuitt doesn't come back. But really, yeah, I mean, it is. They've set themselves up to be able to take whatever they want. That is very certain to me. And it does seem like what they want is still a quarterback. I mean, if they weren't seriously contemplating drafting a quarterback, I mean, it's one thing to say, yeah, they're at Pitt's Pro Day. It's right next door. I've been covering Pitt's Pro Day since 2016. I've never seen that many Steelers coaches and staff there. Tomlin and Colbert aren't usually there. Usually it's a couple of assistant coaches, a couple of scouts, you know, maybe Dan Rooney or maybe Phil Kryler, someone like that. It is not usually this whole the whole brass there. That was unusual. And then to go to Liberty, which is a place they never go to, and Malik Willis is the only reasonable prospect there. You know, at Pitt they can say, well, we want to see Damari Mathis. We have 7th round grades on a couple of these other guys. All right, let's get a look. They're right next door. Malik Willis is the sole attraction at Liberty. The fact that they're still sending the whole crew out on the road there today tells me, yes, quarterback is still definitely in play for the team. And Malik Willis is going in the first round. So he's not, I mean, so is Kenny Pickett. It's not like they're saying quarterback is in play all over. They're saying quarterback is in play at number 20. I actually think, yeah, the Steelers would take a quarterback at 20. I'm not sure one of these two guys is going to be there at 20. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go. What did you make of Kenny Pickett's pro day? To me, I thought it was exactly what we've gotten out of Pickett this entire offseason, which was just consistency. Everything that has happened with Kenny has just been what you've expected was going to happen. He ran about what we thought he was going to run. He looks very good in all the drills, just like he looked at the Senior Bowl, just like he looked at the Combine. He just looks like a guy that has been there and done that, and you know what you're getting from him. That's more what I saw from him on Monday. What was your first impression there?
Good array of throws off base. I thought this was interesting. Throwing a lot, rolling out to his left, I felt like was an emphasis he wanted to hit, because he rolls out to his right a lot, but rolling out to his left, there, the scouting report has always been he's going to run that way. And that's been the scouting report that a lot of teams have pointed out, that Kenny Pickett, every time he goes left, he's going to run. But he actually threw off platform to his left a good bit. And he had it to all three levels. He had, I think, a flat to crawl, then I think one to Stovall at the second level, and then threw a deep one to Addison at the next level. So he threw to that side at all three levels. I thought that was interesting. I thought that was pretty important as well for him to kind of prove. That was a question, but clearly showing that he could throw off platform to either side and work out of structure. There was him working through multiple progressions and checking it down. You saw him attack all three areas of the field. You saw him throw. I thought his deep ball was really good yesterday as well. I thought some of the incompletions were actually badly tracked balls by the receivers, to be quite honest with you. And I thought him and Jordan Addison were automatic, as you would expect. So I thought everything really, it looked good. I thought he looked good. I thought he looked comfortable. I thought he showed off some intangibles by pointing out to the receivers where to go. And this is what we're doing. I thought he was a vocal leader. I thought that was good. And so it's really is par for the course. And, talking to a few scouts there, I think everyone was impressed as well. And, I think it was good. I think it was a really good day for Kenny Pickett. And again, it's such a tight bunch quarterback class. You need to take advantage of every opportunity you get. And I thought Kenny Pickett did that again on Monday.
Where do you see Pickett in this quarterback class? To me, I don't think I have him as the top quarterback, but I can make a pretty good argument for taking him first anyway, just because I think his floor is very high. And I think I look at a lot of these teams that are maybe going to be in this range of drafting now. Carolina, I don't think has a better option than Kenny Pickett right now. Atlanta doesn't have a better option than Kenny Pickett right now. And if you're talking about a guy to play right now, if you're drafting a quarterback that you want to play in the 2020 season, to me, Kenny Pickett's your guy. So I think he's really showed that throughout this draft process too. But is he your first quarterback, and where do you see them shaking out?
Personally, I'd rather go with the guy with upside. So I would take the swing on Malik Willis because he's going to be if someone pans out from this draft to be the franchise quarterback, it's going to be Malik Willis. Now, Kenny Pickett could be at his true ceiling. He still has room to grow, and he's not completely done yet, but you kind of know what you have in Kenny Pickett. And the intangible factor that he's going to bring, I think, is going to make him pro ready from right on the get-go, as you said. So if you're looking for the safe option, it's Kenny Pickett. It's either Kenny Pickett or you wait another round and get Desmond Ridder. Those are your two safe options. The vets, the leaders, the types that have success in college football, know how to win and do all that stuff. If you want more upside, you have Malik Willis, who I think is the QB1 of this class because of his upside. And then you have other wild cards like Sam Howell and Matt Corral. And even further down the list, you have guys like Caleb Ellaby and Carson Strong that you can take on day two. But I think that Pickett is going to be probably the QB1 or QB2 of this class taken in terms of draft capital. So that would be my expectation.
And I do not expect him to be there at number 20 when the Steelers draft. Are you on board with that?
Yeah, I mean, there was multiple guys there. Matt Rule obviously was there. The Panthers at 6 is a very real possibility for him. I think the Commanders at 11 is a possibility. They brought out a pretty large contingent. Martin Mayhew, their GM, was there. I think a really underrated spot for Kenny Pickett is 18 to the New Orleans Saints. They brought back Jameis Winston, but they are paying an albatross of a contract to Taysom Hill, and he's not going to be there much longer. And you have Jameis on a 2-year deal coming off a torn ACL. So the definition of stability to bring to that room would be Kenny Pickett, and their quarterback's coach Ronald Curry came. So that's at least 3 teams, I think, that are very significant factors in a Kenny Pickett fall to 20. I think that those guys are there. And even a team like Atlanta, if they wanted stability and say Malik Willis is off the board already, and they needed a stable quarterback and they wanted a guy that could come in and give them a high floor, Kenny Pickett's right there.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just think there's too many teams that are a lot of teams have added a quarterback, but there's a difference between just like we talked about the Steelers. Yeah, they signed Mitch Trubisky, but that does not take them out of the equation for drafting a quarterback. I don't really know that. I mean, a lot of these teams, a lot of the quarterbacks that have moved this offseason, maybe outside of a Russell Wilson, where, okay, yeah, that's going to cross Denver off. But most of the rest of the quarterbacks that have moved are not guys that teams are just like, yep, that's our guy for now and forever. It's either bridge guys or stopgap guys, where drafting a quarterback behind them can still be very, very realistic. And so, yeah, I just have a hard time seeing Pickett get to 20 to the Steelers. I think if they were going to take him, they would have to move up. And I think that goes back to our previous conversation, is when you've done such a good job in free agency to set yourself up to be able to take best player available, where you don't have a position of strong need. To me, that's not a situation where you should be giving up draft capital to move up. That's a situation where you should be able to say, okay, well, the best quarterback is not going to get to us. The quarterbacks we would take at 20 are not going to get to us, but maybe Jordan Davis is, maybe Booth or Stingley or one of the corners is going to be there. Maybe a wide receiver we really like is going to be there. Maybe it's one of the tackles that falls that nobody's really predicting right now. But I just feel like the Steelers are in such a good place with what they've done in free agency that you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't sign a Mitchell Trubisky and then trade up. To me, like, I don't think it precludes them from drafting a quarterback, but I just have a hard time seeing them spend a lot of capital to move up to, say, 9 or 10, which is, to me, where I think you would have to be to feel like you're going to get one of these two guys.
I think it makes a lot more sense for Willis than for Pickett as well. And I'll say that because I think Willis is this raw quarterback that's got these dynamite tools that you love, but he's definitely not going to play next year. And it's a Trey Lance situation. Really great tools, but also the guy's not going to play year one. So Trubisky could be the bridge option there. That makes sense. If they just if they don't believe in Mason Rudolph at all, they want to at least compete this year and they want to do something this year. Because again, the Steelers are always like, we are going to compete regardless. So Trubisky at the very least puts them in competitive fashion with some of these teams. So I could see the Willis one, but like, if you're going to trade up for Pickett, just draft Kenny Pickett. It makes no sense. Let Pickett compete with Rudolph and Haskins. Like, that would have been the point. Pickett does not need to sit. Pickett is going to start from day one in the right situation. So I think if they're going to trade up for quarterback, I'd almost bet it's for Malik Willis.
I would agree with that. And I think that I just think that both of them will be, I have a hard time seeing them want to move into the top 10. That's a long way. And they have, they don't have desperate needs because of what they've done in free agency, but this is still a rebuilding football team that wants to add talent in a lot of places. You don't do that by trading up. You do that by sitting where you're at and doing the best job you can of drafting at every position. We saw them do this last year when they sat there and they drafted 4 or 5 guys that were significant contributors to the 2021 team. You think about that team last year and, well, maybe they would have been better if they moved up in the first round, but it got that offensive lineman say that a lot of people thought they needed last year, move up and get a tackle. But that means, of those 4 or 5 rookie starters last year, you're pulling 2 or 3 of them out to replace that with a tackle. It's a difficult thing to do when you're a rebuilding team. If you're a veteran team that has few needs, there's been plenty of times in the Steelers' past where 5 rookies weren't making the roster. So it didn't matter if you sat there and drafted them all. Shoot, forget it. Trade up and go use them because they're not going to make the team anyway. That's certainly not the case right now. I want to any last thoughts on Pickett or how his day went or how maybe anything else about his status as we sit here right now. Before we move on, I do want to get to talk about some of the other guys who I thought had pretty impressive days yesterday.
I think Pickett is positioning himself well. I think every step of the process he's done well. Apparently he's interviewed well. A lot of these teams are raving about him. I think, again, in a bunch quarterback class, when you take advantage of everything you have and every step of the way you impress, you're probably going to end up pretty good for yourself. And I think Malik Willis and Kenny Pickett are the 2 guys that have consistently stepped up to the plate and hit home runs every step of the way.
I agree. Well, I think very clearly the next most impressive guy after Kenny Pickett at Pitt's Pro Day, and maybe honestly, maybe even more impressive, maybe not absolutely, but compared to expectations coming in was Damari Mathis, who definitely got the biggest oohs and ahs from the crowd when he was doing his vertical jump and his broad jump, which he didn't do in Indianapolis. And he was through the roof, 43.5 vertical, 11.1 broad. If you combine that with his 4.39 40 from Indy, athletically, he might be the best corner in the draft. Is that crazy to say?
No, I mean, he tested like that. So guys, for reference, 43.5-inch vertical. Some NBA players don't reach that high. I mean, NBA players jump 48, 47. I think LeBron James's vertical was 44 inches. So this is the type of athlete we're talking about. The guy gets up and he floats. And I think it's apparent on tape too. I mean, he's always been a very explosive athlete, coming downhill, jumping up to high point the ball, but he had a really impressive day. I also thought he had a really good day in the drills. I think he looked very fluid. His breaks were clean. He showcased ball skills, was able to get his head around. I thought he was very disciplined there, had good hip turns. I thought Damari Mathis did everything he could have. You know, the short shuttle 4.18, not a bad time either. And 15 on the bench for him is really good as well. I think every step of the way, he's inched up the draft board. If you had talked to me before Mobile, I would have said 6th, 7th round draft pick for Damari Mathis. He's going much earlier than that now. He's not going to be there in round 6 anymore. Damari Mathis has really helped himself every step of the way.
Yeah, I got him now in the early day 3 range, round 4, round 5. It would not shock me if someone goes even higher than that, I'll be honest, because a lot of the times these guys, like, it's sort of that draft trope, right, where you have the guy who has that combine performance out of nowhere, but the film doesn't really back it up, or maybe the player just didn't play at a high level or doesn't have a lot of experience. And so teams will see that number and then they'll still kind of discount it. But with a guy like Damari Mathis, he's got somewhere in the neighborhood of 35 college football games. The vast majority of them starts for Pitt. He played in a defense that asks a ton out of its corners, puts them in, quarters press, which is essentially one-on-one coverage on the outside. It doesn't get any more difficult than that. That does mean that some defenses, especially teams that play like a lot of, cover 3 bail or cover 2 under, will be doing some projecting his skills to some different schemes. But I would much rather have the guy that's done the harder thing and try to teach him to do the easier thing than the other way around. I think we've seen that from other Pitt defensive backs that have gone into the league. Dane Jackson, Jason Pinnock, I think, have played well above their draft stock as young players so far. And it looks like Mathis is going to be a step ahead of them coming into the league. I really think he's done a lot for himself in this post-season pre-draft process. And yeah, I mean, I think he has a very good chance to be a very early day 3 pick, if not even higher.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if he slid into the back end of day 2. It would not. I know it's a loaded cornerback class, and that's working against him here. If this was a weaker cornerback class, we'd be talking about Damari Mathis probably as a top 100 draft pick. That's with his measurables, but it's a pretty loaded class. So it's deep, it's good at the top. So a lot of these corners are going to, corners that would go in round 1 are going to go in round 2, and then round 2, round 3. So there's going to be guys that are going to drop. So we'll see how that affects him. But the measurables are better than anyone else has put up. And the tape is pretty solid too. So it's not like he just has that. He has good tape on top of that. And then the Senior Bowl, he was one of the best cornerbacks there. I thought all week he played really well. He worked both in the slot and outside, even a little bit at safety during that week. So he's also this type of versatile athlete that can work in different areas. So if you project him inside of the slot, I think he'll fit in perfectly there with his explosiveness, his quickness. You can really look at Damari Mathis and put him in a bunch of different areas. He's very scrappy, very physical, very willing to hit. So he's also ideal for that slot role if you want to blitz him a little bit and do all of that. I think he's a very versatile player. I think he's a great athlete, and I think he's improved time over time again. This has been a guy that has consistently at every step of the way, both from Mobile to the combine to now, has consistently hit a home run every step of the process, and he's gone up the boards as a reasonable result.
I also think he's a good fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They went out and got Levi Wallace, who I assume is going to replace Joe Hayden. Hayden's still unsigned, but looks like we'll be moving on. They brought Akella Witherspoon back. They have Cam Sutton back. But after that, it starts to get a little questionable, right? James Pierre, I'm not quite sure what they feel about him. I think this time a year ago, people thought that he was maybe a young guy that they thought could grow into a bigger role. Seemed to struggle with that bigger role last year. Maybe that'll change going forward. Who knows? Justin Lane certainly doesn't seem like a guy who has future starting potential anymore at this point. Arthur Millette just signed for the 2 years as a pure slot guy. I think there's room for another corner there in this draft. And if I'm the Steelers, 4th, 5th, 6th round, they don't have a 5th round pick, but it seems like about where that should be happening. They have the compensation pick at the end of the 4th round. That to me is like dead on for where to draft Damari Mathis. It seems like he lines up with their needs a little bit too.
I think it's a natural fit. Terrell Austin worked him through his drills yesterday. And again, I think that's significant. We've seen consistently a trend with the Steelers. If you are an assistant there and you're putting the guy through the drills, they often have a lot of interest in you. So that tells me they have tangible interest in Damari Mathis. So I'll say this. I think Damari Mathis is a guy that fits their scheme well. Again, the Steelers run a lot of different coverages. They're not a true cover 3 team. They're not a true quarters team. They're not a true cover 2 team. Now they increasingly went to more cover 2. But because they play so much cover 2 man and cover 1 single high, because they have Minkah Fitzpatrick, why wouldn't you play a lot of single high? This is going to be a natural scheme fit for what Minkah is going to want to do at that free safety spot. And then you put Mathis on the outside, he'll be able to play in man because he's done it his whole career at Pitt. So the natural transition would make a lot of sense there, right? So I like the fit of Damari Mathis in Pittsburgh. I think he'll have a ton of suitors. Again, he's a good man coverage corner. He's a little bit reckless in press coverage and his jams, but it'll improve, and he's got a ton of upside with his athleticism. You know, when Damari Mathis pans out at what he could be, we're talking about a 10-year starter here. We're not talking about a guy that's, you know, going to flame out of the league. We're talking about a guy that's going to be a long-time starter. So in round 4, absolutely a great swing.
Who else stood out to you? I had a good list. I really actually thought that in general, almost everyone that participated, to me, I thought did well for themselves. There were very few guys that I don't think improved their standing. There are several guys who, to me, are right on the line of being in the league and not being in the league. And I thought several of them really stepped up. But I want to hear you go first, is who you really thought from the other guys had a nice day on Monday.
Well, I thought Lucas Kroll had a nice day. 4.54 at 6'6" is a very good time for him. Also had a really good vertical. Had decent agilities. Overall, Lucas Kroll looked good. But I thought the biggest thing for him was, how's he going to look catching routes from Kenny Pickett? The drops were obviously a big issue. The route running prowess, I thought he looked fluid. He didn't drop a pass yesterday. I thought he looked good in those drills. So I thought he had a good day. Another guy I thought had a good day, Keyshawn Camp, running a 4.68 at 283. It's really impressive. And the thing is with Camp is he had the explosives. 31.5-inch vertical was great for defensive tackles. He also had a 9.2 broad, another great number. You know, the agilities weren't great for him, but I thought he had a really good day overall. Keyshawn Camp looked really good. And again, the question with Camp has never been the talent. The talent's been there. It's always been the injuries. And so that's been the question with him, but he had a really good day. I'll tell you what, the 2 linebackers Pitt had there as well. Phil Campbell running a 4.51. Johnny Patrician across the board had a really good day. His vertical jump was insane, and he also ran well. He showcased that he's a bit of a freak athlete himself. Certainly a team might be willing to take a shot on Patrician as kind of a project guy that can come in and give him some looks. His medical history also working against him. You know, I thought the receivers did well. I thought Taysir Mack running a 4.47 was solid for him. I thought he really needed to prove he had good long speed because that's his MO. And I thought he made some really nice catches in the drills, high pointing the ball. I thought he looked fluid overall. Melky Stovall jumping out of the gym for being a 5'8" guy, I thought was really good for him as well. Stovall was kind of a guy that might not have been on many NFL radars, but now that's a guy that can get a rookie camp invite. So you look at those guys, and I thought across the board, Pitt did really well for themselves. Probably the biggest winner of the whole thing was Lucas Kroll, just because he had such a great, well-rounded type of testing day. And for a tight end, his whole MO is being that athletic seam buster, and he lived up to that on the numbers.
Yeah, I think if you're a team that is looking for the tight end position and you start to get into the day 3 types, usually it's guys that don't have a lot of upside. Usually it's just, oh, he's a blocker, or, you know, he's limited with athleticism. I think with Kroll, because of how little he's played football, how little he's played. I mean, even since he's been a football player, he barely played at Florida behind Kyle Pitts, transfers to Pitt, gets hurt, misses a year, played really 1 full season. But you're getting a mature, polished physical specimen that has low miles on him, so he still has upside. So I think that's really an attractive group. I'm not sure why he's not getting talked about as a draftable player more. I think, to me, he's in the draft pretty solidly. Question of where, probably, because that's a position where either you need him or you don't, and maybe you get to the day 3 and it just doesn't fall the way where there may be a bunch of undrafted tight ends, who knows. But I just think he's a player that should be drafted based on his physical skill set and his still remaining potential upside. I think is really what to me makes Krull a good prospect. And also, talking about the Steelers, tight end 3, probably a need for them going into this offseason. I mean, I think they love what they have in Freiermuth and Gentry, but that they are probably not bringing Eric Ebron back, although he is not signed elsewhere. But just Kevin Rader beyond that. So yeah, I think tight end is a reasonable day 3 draft pick for the Steelers. So something to look at there. I really thought Patricia did really, really well for himself. He's a guy that made the move from safety to linebacker, and is not the biggest guy, but I thought really proved that he's a superior athlete at his size. I don't think for the Steelers, him or Phil Campbell are very good scheme fits. They're, to me, like 4-3. One's a weak side, one's a strong side, and neither really fit the Steelers' inside linebacker spots very well. But could both just make a team as a special teams contributor. We've seen the Steelers take guys that don't really necessarily fit their defense just because they're elite special teamers. John Patrician, to me, screams good NFL special teamer, and so I think he will get a look because of that. Keyshawn Camp, man, again, I don't think a great fit for what the Steelers are looking for on the defensive line, but that athleticism at his size, and to me, that's a guy. Yeah, the injury questions are big and has been an issue for him throughout his career, but his tape is really productive too. He hasn't played that much, but when he's played, he's been very good, if not dominant, a very disruptive player. And I think, again, some upside there with the obvious injury questions. And Taysir Mack is another player that I think fits what the Steelers are looking for. They have next to nobody a wide receiver. I think that there will be a couple of guys that are going to come into training camp with the ability to take a job. Gunnar Olszewski is basically a special teamer. It wouldn't surprise me if there are 6 wide receivers on this roster this year, because he's going to be taking one of those spots, but is not really a receiving option. So why not a guy like Taysir Mack, who I thought the leaping and the running is where he needed to be. Stovall too, I think, like you said, will get a spot based on what he showed. And yeah, I really thought all of those guys, and we named, basically the whole crew except for the specialists who didn't really do anything, that really elevated themselves. And I thought had a really, really good day. Just a great day for the Pitt program overall. When you are able to have, you have that star guy, that big attraction, Kenny Pickett, but they've had that before, right? They had Aaron Donald, they had Tyler Boyd, who everybody came to see too, but those classes didn't have a whole bunch of other guys taking advantage of that opportunity. I really feel like everyone else at Pitt yesterday took advantage of the fact that there were 31 NFL teams there to watch Kenny Pickett. They also saw a bunch of other guys do really well.
Yeah, I thought that was big for the Pitt program. The strength and conditioning staff earning their money's worth for sure. And everyone tested well. I mean, these were really impressive numbers across the board. And so with Krull running a 4.54 at 6'6", you get your 2 linebackers sub 4.55. Impressive stuff from both of those linebackers. Heck, Phil Campbell almost ran sub 4.5. So that's impressive, right? And then both of your receivers run sub 4.5 and run 4.47s. So also impressive. I thought that this was a really good day for the whole thing. And then you have the freak that was Keyshawn Camp. I don't think anyone I knew he was going to be athletic, but a 4.68 is truly insane at 283. So guy was moving. And I think Pitt did really well for themselves. Again, that's another thing that you get with when you get a guy like Kenny Pickett, is you get an opportunity for everyone else to see all the other guys. And when Kenny Pickett wasn't throwing the ball, and he was not for the majority of the day, so they saw all the testing, they saw all the drills, they saw all that stuff from the rest of the guys. Those guys are going to get put on those teams' radar, and that's going to give them an opportunity in more camps to make the names for themselves.
I think that's probably all I've got from the Pitt Pro Day. We're going to hit the Liberty Pro Day, which happened Tuesday, and talk about Malik Willis a little bit more, probably in our next episode. We're also going to be at the Penn State Pro Day on Thursday, so we'll probably then talk about that going forward. So I really think we've got a lot of good stuff coming up. If there's something about the Steelers, about Pitt, about Penn State, about the Combine or Senior Bowl or whatever that you'd like to see us hit, go ahead, leave a comment, and let us know. We'll get to it in a future episode. We've got lots of time, basically a whole month between now and the 2022 NFL Draft in April, where we'll be talking to you almost every day about the NFL Draft. So make sure to like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. Check out all our stuff at Pittsburgh Steelers Now and Pittsburgh Sports Now and Nittany Sports Now when we go to Penn State as well. And we'll get you guys well covered for the 2022 NFL Draft. Thanks for watching Draft Talk on Pittsburgh Sports Live. I'm Alan Saunders for Nick Farabaugh. Really appreciate you tuning in. Very excited to do this again for another year, and we'll see you next time.